Welcome back, fight fans. This is The Fight Fan, and today we're rolling back the years, from the bright lights of Belfast to the grit of Liverpool, to chart the rise, reign and heartbreak of Britain and Ireland's best featherweights from the early 90s to today. This weekend, a storied career came to an end. Lee Wood, the iron-willed warrior from Nottingham, finally met his match. Not just matched, but outgunned, outmuscled and outmanoeuvred by a man with longer levers, sharper reflexes and undeniable momentum, Anthony Cacace. Cacace didn't just win, he ended something. And with that ending, we are reminded of the brutal beauty and constant turnover at 126 pounds. So today, let's pay homage to a lineage, from Paul Hodkinson to Nick Ball, the artists, the sluggers and the nearly men. Let's dig in. We start in the 90s with Paul Hodkinson, the pride of Kirkby. Hocko was relentless, compact and explosive, a Mike Tyson of featherweights. He overwhelmed opponents with forward pressure and vicious combinations. In 91, he captured the WBC World Featherweight title by stopping Marcus Filisana. He also beat Fabrice Benishu and Steve Cruz. But Hodkinson's weakness was clear. Technical boxers could trouble him. When he met Gregory Vargas in 93, the skill gap was too wide, and Hocko's reign ended. Still, he lit the path. Colin McMillan brought slickness and flair. Known as Sweet C, McMillan held the WBO featherweight title in 92, defeating Maurizio Stecher. It was an amazing performance, but an untimely injury against Ruben Dario Palacios cut short what could have been a dominant reign. Plucked from absolute obscurity, Steve Robinson became the Cinderella man of the featherweight division when he upset John Davidson to win the WBO featherweight title. Before that, he'd been a journeyman, but he proved it wasn't a fluke, with victories over Hodkinson, Colin McMillan and Duke McKenzie, a true overachiever. Robinson was strong, tough and compact. A contemporary of Steve Robinson was Billy Hardy, and Hardy was all toughness. A Sunderland stalwart who pushed Orlando Canizales to the brink at bantamweight, Hardy later claimed the European featherweight title by outpointing Robinson, but when he faced Prince Naseem Hamed, Hamed broke his nose and wrecked him in just 90 seconds. If Hodkinson lit the path, Prince Naseem Hamed blew the doors off the house. Sheffield's flamboyant phenom was pure electricity. With reflexes from another dimension and knockout power in either hand, Naz made defences look like mismatches. After ending Steve Robinson's reign as the WBO champion, in 97 he annihilated Tom Johnson to unify the IBF and WBO crowns. His list of victims included the likes of Wilfredo Vasquez, Kevin Kelly, Manuel Mendina, Wayne McCulloch, Steve Robinson and Billy Hardy, to name just a few. For all his phenomenal talents, however, Naz had his flaws. Behind the swagger, there was lapses in discipline. Saying he was overconfident would be an understatement. He was outright arrogant. And against Marco Antonio Barrera in 2001, he was exposed, tamed and humbled. He would fight just once more, outscoring Manuel Calvo in a damp squid of a fight. The money he'd earned had dampened the fire. Still, his legacy, untouchable, the best of the British featherweights. Then came Michael Brodie, a cracking infighter, who never quite got his world title. He was robbed against Willie Horan at super bantamweight and fought Injin Chi to a draw before being overpowered in the rematch. But he claimed solid wins over the likes of Sergei Devikov, Salim Mejkun, Simon Ramoni and Pastor Morin. Scarborough's Paul Ingle brought heart, tenacity and work rate. A 1999 win over Manuel Mendina gave him the IBF featherweight title, and his victory over Junior Jones in Madison Square Garden was a cracker. He'd previously given Prince Naseem Hamed all the trouble he could handle in his first world title shot. Unfortunately, his downfall came in the ring. A brutal fight with Mabuelo Botile ended his career and nearly his life. Ingle was as brave as they come, and he left it all in the ring. Hamed's successor as the WBO featherweight champion was Scott Harrison. Ferocious and tireless, he ruled from 2002 to 2005, beating the likes of Tom Johnson, Junior Jones, Pablo Chacon, Wayne McCulloch and Michael Brodie. He was stunned by Manuel Mendina, but overpowered the veteran in a rematch. Strong, ferocious and tireless, Harrison was undone by troubles outside the ring. A victim of alcoholism. Rendall Munroe was durable and determined, beating Kiko Martinez and holding the European belt, but his limitations showed at world level against Toshihika Nishoka. Lee Selby brought back finesse. The Welshman won the IBF featherweight title in 2015 by defeating Evgeny Gradovic. He had successful defences against Fernando Montiel and Eric Hunter. Selby was slick, rangy and hard to pin down. Josh Warrington finally out-hustled him in 2018. Scott Quigg was a quiet destroyer. Though more renowned at super bantamweight, he stepped up to feather and fought valiantly. Quigg held the WBA title and beat Rendall, Munroe, Kiko Martinez and Tishifina Munyai before falling to Frampton in a huge domestic showdown. Which brings us on to Belfast's golden boy Carl Frampton. The Jackals combined slick boxing with serious pop, and more importantly he had it: charisma, heart and IQ. Frampton unified at super bantamweight, then moved up and conquered Leo Santa Cruz in a modern classic to win the WBA featherweight title in 2016. He also beat the likes of Scott Quigg and Kiko Martinez. That was the high. The rematch was close, but he lost. Still, Frampton cemented himself as Northern Ireland's finest since McGuigan. And his victory over future Hall of Famer Nonito Donaire for the WBO interim featherweight title was a cracker. He would make one defence of the championship, stopping Luke Jackson before losing to Leeds marauder Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington brought his own brand of chaos. No huge power, but endless stamina, swarming pressure and a granite chin. He won the IBF featherweight title in 2018 by defeating Lee Selby and defending it in thrilling scraps with Carl Frampton and Kid Galahad. He also defeated Kiko Martinez. After losing to Maurizio Lara in a shock KO, he reclaimed the IBF belt by beating Martinez again, but then was stopped by Luis Alberto Lopez. Losses to Lee Wood and Anthony Kakachi suggest the end may be near. Michael Conlon had elite amateur pedigree and charisma to spare, and he came close, being stopped in the final round of a fight he was winning against Lee Wood, a fight which would be called the 2022 Fight of the Year. Second world title tilt would end more emphatically, with him being stopped by Luis Alberto Lopez. Still, he beat good men such as TJ Doheny and Miguel Mariaga, but the world title eluded him. Lee Wood's story is one of grit and belief. He stopped Zhu Khan to win the WBA title, then gave us that comeback KO of Michael Conlon before being brutally stopped by Maurizio Lara, only to come back to comprehensively outbox Lara in a rematch. A 7th round stoppage over Josh Warrington was epic, but then came 18 months away from the ring and the stoppage defeat up at super featherweight to Anthony Kakachi, which leaves us with Nick Ball, the Liverpool pitbull. Short, aggressive and violent. Ball is chaos in the ring, swarming pressure, unrelenting volume. He beat Isaac Dogbay on points to earn a shot at the WBC featherweight title, then seemed unlucky to have to settle for a draw against Ray Vargas. He wouldn't be denied in his second world title shot as he claimed the WBA featherweight crown, outscoring the ultra-tough Raymond Ford. Since then he's made 2 defences, scoring 10th round stoppages over Ronnie Reyes and TJ Doheny. Unbeaten, improving and fearless, Nick Ball is the current king of the feathers. Question is, who's going to come next? From Hodkinson to Hamed, McMillan to Selby, Frampton to Wood, and now Ball, Britain and Ireland have never lacked for talent at featherweight. It's a division that demands everything: speed, skill, grit and heart. And one bad night can end everything. So fight fans, who do you rank at the top? Who did we miss? Drop a comment, like and subscribe. Because history isn't over, we just moved on to the next round. This is The Fight Fan. I'll see you at the bell.